what do you see students doing in the bigger picture as far as we're still studying, we're not in positions of authority, so do we promote advocacy, do we educate ourselves?
Well, I think we live in a very complex world these days. Obviously, there's globalization, which means that everything is connected, whether it be geographically or functionally in terms of one issue impacting on another. So I think a week here, talking to each other, as well as having outside speakers coming in, is a sort of a very good sort of graduate international relations course concentrated in one week to get up to speed on all of the issues which are affecting global politics today. But of course you can't unfortunately any longer have a course that lasts for 1 week or 1 year and then be equipped for the rest of your career. The other issue I think that globalization has created is that knowledge is outdated more and more quickly. You have to replace your brain almost, or at least restock your brain all the time now. And I think the ability to advance in a career depends upon the ability to maintain intellectual agility. So I think the thing for students of the future, of course, is just to get into the habit very early on of not assuming that you know everything, or none of us do, but that you have to constantly relearn things, learn new things, acquire new skills. And as John Maynard Keynes says, when the facts change, I change my opinion. What do you do? So from that point of view, hopefully that's the sort of the message that comes out of the meeting here this week.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, conferences like this are all part of developing that skill set to be able to tackle those problems in a real-world professional setting. But one of the things that came up in many of the discussions was apathy, and how this is the main problem in dealing with issues like Afghanistan that we discussed today. So for students who feel like there is no purpose behind because they're 21 or 22 and they don't see any action really contributing to any cause or to any success, what would you say to that, and do you think it does contribute to something bigger?
Well, I disagree with the notion of apathy, not simply because I try to be enthusiastic myself about things, but I honestly believe that the internet, globalization, social media have made it much easier now for average people to influence politics and decisions. So there's less reason for apathy. I could have understood this maybe 40 years ago when I was, or 30 years ago, let's not make myself too old, when I was growing up, the chance of influencing decision makers was slight. You had to sort of wait until you'd gone into politics and been elected yourself. But now, if you look at the role of NGOs in society, if you look how citizens' action groups can influence things, for example, in Canada, landmines, which was something sponsored by the Canadian government, that started because of networks of citizen activists communicating by email and linking up over borders, over continents. It's cheap, it's easy, it's much cheaper today than it was 30 years ago to set up your own TV station, to set up your own radio station. You could even, this is the proof, create your own blog and get your word out there. So to my mind, if you do want to change the world, in terms of getting together with like-minded people behind a manifesto, and in terms of getting publicity and getting the message out, it's infinitely easier today than it was when I was your age. So apathy, of course, can always be a sentiment, but there is not any real reason for it.
So now more than ever, we do have the power to influence from outside rather than waiting until we're finally inside the institution.
I firmly believe that. I mean, obviously you have to know what you want to influence, and sometimes it's true that citizens' initiatives succeed only where they get the attention of governments. For example, one of the reasons why the landmines campaign succeeded, and other issues like cluster bombs, which went into effect, just the ban on cluster munitions just a few days ago, was the reason was that citizens groups eventually got the support of the United Nations, or the support of governments like Norway or Canada that decided to put all of their diplomatic muscle behind it. So it's true that you often need a coalition between the private individual and government or an international organisation before you get somewhere. But I think that for today's generation of students, the possibility of influencing things is much greater. Their knowledge of the world also is greater. I mean, many years ago people could say, if only I had known the truth, if only I had not been ignorant, I could have done something. But with 24/7 media. The claim of ignorance as an excuse for inaction, I'm afraid, doesn't apply. We know everything that's going on, and therefore there is no excuse to tolerate things that clearly are not sort of part of nature, not, if you like, handed down by God or divine providence, but are man-made tragedies, man-made disasters, injustices. Those things can be corrected. And also, final, but perhaps comment in answer to this question, that there is now recourse. For example, if somebody had committed war crimes in 1950, there was no international tribunal where that person could be judged. So there was, if you like, nowhere to go. Today we've had the International Criminal Tribunal for Yugoslavia, for Rwanda, the International Criminal Court for war crimes. International law has evolved, and therefore there is now a basis also for legally doing things and being able to get somewhere with those initiatives.